everybody. Welcome to Charts and Hearts. I'm Sarah, and she's Lindsay.
And today we have a super special hot take episode. We are covering The Materialists, because you can't make a movie with Chris Evans and Pedro Pascal and have us not talk about it. That's the law.
Indeed.
Yeah. I think this is our first hot takes episode since Aquaman, way back in Nature Finds a Way. I think we had some other ones planned, but they didn't
we were
really
going to do a hot take for Hot Frosty, but it was too bad. It wasn't even fun bad.
Yeah.
So
stay tuned for this year's Hallmark movies, and we'll see what happens. Anyways, this one's going to be a little bit shorter, less official.
Yeah.
But we'll touch on some tropes and pie stuff, but there won't be anything, fancy.
And this is your spoiler. We're going to spoiler the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like,
whole thing.
Not in detail, because we didn't take notes and we watched it in the theater, but it's we assume that you have watched this movie or that you don't plan to watch the movie.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Okay, so we obviously talked about this after we watched it, but this is not what we were told it was going to be.
No. And actually, I read or saw something that I didn't really, dive into because I didn't want to, get influenced by other people's thoughts before we did this. But it was that, the marketing of this being, a sexy, fun rompy kind of movie.
Yeah.
And that it not being that is also part of the point
marketing
of what it's trying to say.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's trying to talk about the whole concept of, romance and the commercialization of romance and, there's one perfect person and soulmates and, it has something to say about that. And so, the fact that they intentionally marketed it as not what it actually is kind of also the point of the movie.
Yeah.
Because it's,
I can see that.
Trying to say something. I don't know if it was intentional, but it was, that was this person's read on it.
Yeah. I also think that they looked at who they had and were like, this makes really good video content.
So it's we can make really good short form video or whatever with these people because they have great chemistry. So,
yeah. So, I would say it's a drama. It's definitely a harsh look at love and dating. There are some laughs, but the amount of laughs you would expect in a drama, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Other people laughed at more stuff than I did, probably because I saw it coming, because I am now a romance movie connoisseur.
Yeah.
Weirdly.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff I was like, this is very lampshaded or tropey, or stuff like that. I'm like, I knew this already. This is not a surprise joke to me kind of thing. Anyway.
Yeah. Lots of the sort of funny bits were just standard rom-com things. Yeah. Okay, so in the movie, Dakota Johnson plays a matchmaker at this fancy international agency of matchmakers. It's very confusing. And I sort of was like, is this a real thing? But apparently Celine Song worked as a matchmaker before she became a screenwriter and director. Not for very long, just for 6 months. But I think some of this is based on her time in matchmaking.
Her experience. Yeah, I can see that, because it seemed not necessarily Dakota's harsh take on it's just math and all of that kind of stuff, but her her experiences with and the other people at the matchmaking agency, and also her experience with getting new clients and stuff. Yeah.
And the sort of references were incredibly specific. Yeah. Which helped. It made it feel
way more realistic.
More real and also funnier. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think one of the things we touched on in our postmortem was both the men and women were incredibly self-righteous and picky and horrible. Yeah. Which is probably had been her experience, I'm gonna guess.
Yeah, because we can talk about this part now. So there's a guy who comes in and he's in his 40s and he was like, oh, I want to date somebody a little bit older. My last two girlfriends were 21 and 23. And so then she tries to set him up with somebody who's 31, and he's like, oh, no, 20s. 29 might be too old. And he's 40 something. And that guy is played by Eddie Cahill, who's Tag in Friends and also a million other things. But
it was so weird.
Yeah, it was funny. And then so then the women are stereotypically focused on men over 6 feet who make lots of money. Yeah.
So that part of being both sides of being well balanced and equality in a weird way, like negative equality, makes me think it was real, because this movie does not really like women. It's not a feminist movie. It's
not anti-feminist either. It's
no,
just like
but it's just like
just is. It's a realistic movie.
Yeah, it's like I think like we've watched too many rom-coms, maybe, but probably not. But also like number. It's 2025. Like, can we be better at this?
Yeah. Well, I think it also wasn't showing like every person. Like, this isn't what every person. This is what people who choose to hire a matchmaker.
Yeah, who have a lot of money in New York. Yeah.
And are choosing to hire a matchmaker.
Yes.
Yeah, and not do it all the other ways that you can.
Yeah, like it wasn't the women who were overly picky that was my problem. It was Dakota and her one main matchmaker client that were like fine as female characters, are well rounded and all of that stuff. It's more they have no friends. Yeah, and they have no goals in life except to get a man. Both of her main clients are both like that. The woman at the beginning, and then this, I think it's Sophia. Sophia. Yeah. Her only goal in life is to get a boyfriend.
Yeah, I mean, that we see, right?
Well, no, I would say more that, like, she's a lawyer, but she, in the scenes where she is attacked and is having this traumatic experience, she says, I have no friends in the city.
Oh, yeah. No, but sorry, like, it meant her goal. Like, the goal that we see is because it's the context of her, working with a matchmaker. But yeah, the fact that she is, like, has a career and has no friends, I mean, is realistic and might be why she's choosing to use a matchmaker. But yeah, it's, especially Dakota Johnson's character, she has no friends. Yeah. She has, like, colleagues that she's not close with, like, other than at work, and her only goal, like, I guess her goal isn't really to get married, because she doesn't, but her goal is just money, really. Yeah. Which is fine. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and it is what it is. I think it's just more of, like, I think I would be less frustrated with Dakota's character if the phrase, I'm gonna die alone, wasn't uttered over 20 times.
So many times.
Movie. Not by her. She didn't care. But by almost every other woman who had speaking roles in this movie. Yeah. And it was just, like, that was my main point of, like, how is this a thing in 2025? Like, we covered this in 1993 in Seattle with a terrorist thing. Like, we've done this for 30 years, and this is still what we're saying? Like, yeah, that was my main problem of, like, you can have a dramatic movie about harsh love and blah, 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 and not say that.
Yeah, I think. But also, like, having a spouse isn't a solution to dying alone, because, like, you can get divorced and still die alone, or your spouse could die early, or you could, have friends, or you could
and not hate die your alone. Spouse and die alone because emotionally,
or wish that you died alone. Yeah, yeah. I guess this movie is pretty white, pretty straight, but maybe that sort of matches up with the matchmaking. Yeah,
it's
who knows?
Hard to tell. And, like, again, because we weren't taking notes and we were watching it for the first time, like, there could have been people of color in the montages or in the, like, at her agency. At her agency, I mainly remember them being white, preppy girls.
Oh, yeah, no,
they're woo girls, basically.
Yeah, they were definitely woo girls.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think maybe the montages had people of color in them. I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember. So. Yeah, okay, so in terms of, like, other sort of observations, I think the acting and writing, obviously, were all really good. The person who plays Sophie is Zoe Winters, who was in Succession most recently. But yeah, she was really good, like, super believable portrayal of what was sort of happening with her.
What was happening to her,
Yeah, and Dakota Johnson is somebody that I've never really, like, liked watching at all, and found her, like, surprisingly good in this.
Yeah, I agree. And I, like, again, I'm not a student of her work, so maybe it's just been the films that she's been in.
Partially. Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of, I haven't seen her in a lot of things. Yeah. Like, I've heard about her in things, but I haven't seen. Yeah, like,
and I've seen
Madam Web, and I haven't seen 50 Shades. Like, yeah.
So maybe that's what it is, and maybe she's okay. Maybe she's just being better. Like, at the beginning, I was concerned because she was doing a little bit of Hermione's School of Acting with. Just if I move my face around, that's acting, right? Like, just like physically moving it. Yeah. But it got much better.
Yeah, it was much better.
And then the main event, the reason for the season that we haven't actually touched on yet.
Yeah. I know.
They're both so good.
So dreamy. Yeah.
Great.
My biggest criticism of the movie, like, even if you were going to make a serious movie, is that Pedro Pascal and Chris Evans barely interact in this movie at all.
Yeah. Yeah. First of all, spoiler again, they don't kiss, which is really upsetting.
No, I know. I was like, why have a love triangle when
exactly
you can
like we just came from a love triangle, like a real love triangle in half of it, and we're like, but let's keep it going, guys. Yeah, they're in like 2 scenes together maybe, and in this, especially the second scene, it's a lot of dick measuring.
Yeah, which is fine, but
against plot, fine, yeah.
Yeah.
But Pedro is incredible.
Oh, he's
and
so
again,
funny.
It's watching him from just seeing The Last of Us, I'm like, yes, he's a chameleon. Of course, he's an actor, but it's just like, it's really quite strange to see that change so quickly.
Not a lot of overlap with Last of Us.
No, not so much at all.
He plays like very suave finance guy who, just like woos the pants off her.
Yep, and us.
Yeah. Oh man.
There's a moment where he kisses her hand, and it's just like it's impossible to just like he just like looks up like
sideways eye contact.
Yeah, at her. Oh, yeah. Yep. We're both in the theater. We're like, whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. And then Chris Evans is really good, and I mean, I like that he's trying to play roles that are like very not Captain America. Yeah, like he plays a struggling actor who's like kind of, lives with 3 roommates in a gross falling apart apartment because it's cheap, and
he's like, he's not a man. He's a man, young adult. Like, he's not a man child. He understands
he's stuck
that
in
he's
his
not
20s.
He's not in a good place, and he knows it, but he's not really like going over that wall to do something else. But and he's like been in love with her for forever, and so it's an interesting relationship that I wish maybe had more time, just because it's really just like this. Not even the second half. It's like maybe the last third.
Yeah, because so like they're exes who broke up because he was broke and she wanted more. Like she wanted, fancy dinners and blah blah blah, and he drove a beater and didn't want to spend money, so they broke up. Which, like, I think money issues is the main thing that a lot of people break up over, and different values around that as well. Yeah, so I don't know. We see them get back together and like you kind of believe it because they act it really well, and she believes it. But I don't know if, like, I actually do believe it. Yeah. Yeah, but we'll get into that. Okay, should we talk about tropes?
Yeah, let's just touch on some
quick
briefly.
Tropes. Yeah.
New York?
Yeah, it's very, very New York. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sorry, was about to say something, but that's in the movie that we're about to talk about, which is our normal movie, which is also based in New York. But this movie doesn't mention rom-coms, but does play songs that are in You've Got Mail, but they're New York songs, so it's not necessarily from You've Got Mail analogy, but it is a little bit just because it's New Yorky. Yeah, but there was 2, I think.
Oh, I didn't even catch this.
Well, that's because you haven't watched You've Got Mail a million times.
That's true. It's true. Yeah, so our main female protagonist is harsh and jaded.
But she gets changed by love.
She gets changed. Maybe. And honestly, I think she wouldn't have been ready to get back with Chris Evans.
No, I don't think so. Yeah.
Had the, like, very romantic fling with Pedro.
Yeah. We've got a lot of tropey, shitty men. Just like a cabal of douchey ex-boyfriends that we talk about in every movie. Yep.
And I think having a job as a matchmaker in a rom-com is pretty tropey.
Yep. Absolutely.
But it's obviously, because this is a drama, it's done much better. Mm-hmm. Lindsay, does this movie pass the Bechdel test?
Kind of. Again, this is my problem with this movie is she doesn't have any friends. Yeah. And like, that aside, because it's not her that's the most egregious with the no friends. It's Sophia saying, I had no friends, so when this man was coming to attack me, I had to call my matchmaker. And then 5 minutes later saying, I have to get a boyfriend so that I don't have to call my matchmaker the next time I'm in trouble. Just get a fucking friend. Anyway, sorry, I just can't deal with this. So she does talk to people. She has a brief conversation at the beginning with a person who I was expecting to be her friend, her coworker. But then she's just her coworker. And when you work as a matchmaker, the women you talk to are your coworkers and your clients, so it's mostly about men.
Yeah, so like she talks about work, but it's about men.
Yeah.
Because her work is about men. Yeah. Okay. It's a very straightforward pie. It's the only thing is talking about dying alone.
Yeah, mainly.
It's not that interesting.
We can add some swoon in there, absolutely, if we were going to make it a real pie. Yeah, there was definitely
swooning, but
the thing that's mentioned the most, like the main theme, that like people say that she talks about the reason for getting married and to have love is so that you have a grave buddy. Like that's the thing that she says. And so the main theme of this is that you better get married so you don't die alone. Which doesn't make sense in reality, but that's the theme of the movie, which again, not the zany, fun, sexy romp we were promised.
Exactly.
But
exactly.
Anyway.
Okay. I guess we kind of touched on this a little bit, but like, what do we think's next for them?
So at the end of the movie, Chris Evans is like, I will change. I will do this, like, sell my car,
do commercial auditions, and
figure out how to get money. When he's like, I don't have any money, so I'll do all this stuff. And I was like, first of all, move into her apartment because she already has it, and then you don't have to live in that shitty apartment, and you can split the rent, whatever.
Yeah.
But that doesn't come up. And he does all of this. He says all these things, and like, I'm going to do this and this and this, so that we have money, which was the goal. Like, she needed him to have money in order for them to get back together. And she's just like, okay, great, thanks.
Yeah, thanks. And
now
then,
we're together.
Her big gesture or like thing to change about the reason that they broke up was to like accept that he changed, not to do anything
like, about it. Yeah,
I don't know, not expect a man to just pay for fancy dinners because he's your boyfriend. I don't know.
Yeah, and then like later in the epilogue, she's talking about how she's going to quit her job and she doesn't have a plan. And I was like, but didn't you just go through this with your boyfriend who doesn't have any money?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Anyway,
crazy.
You know what we didn't talk about was the cavemen.
Oh God, I mean, there's this weird like caveman analogy, and I hate it.
Yeah,
because it ignores the whole like the reason for marriage as an institution isn't romantic. It's about property and like buying a wife, and like a man would like choose a wife from a family that they want like an allegiance with. Like it's how you brought it, like it was the bringing together of financial institutions. Like it wasn't anything about romance. Obviously now we associate marriage with romance, but cavemen wouldn't have had any concept for marriage.
And like, or any, like there was no, as far as we know, I'm not an anthropologist, religion or anything like that. They, like, and like, did they even would have had babies, obviously, but like, did they did they live together? Like, I don't know anything about that, but
like, how, like, you know, was it the whole village raised the baby? Was it just the couple raised the baby? Like, I have no idea, but the concept of like romance for a very long time, until like maybe 100 years ago, was pretty distinct from the concept of marriage.
Yeah.
So,
and then the other part of that is that at the beginning of with this caveman, he brings her flowers, and we're not agreed as to whether or not that would happen for the sole purpose of enjoying flowers. But again, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, they had like art and decoration.
Yeah, that's very true. He takes one and forms it into a ring and puts a ring on her finger. And I'm like, what the actual fuck? Again, we just covered that marriage wasn't really a thing, and rings are just a late stage capitalism. Like, I don't think engagement rings existed for a long time.
Yeah.
So that is just the craziest bonkerish shit ever. And then at the end, the cavemen come back and the cave woman is pregnant, and Dakota's voiceover is something about them growing old together. I'm like, they're cavemen. They lived till like they were like 25. Yeah. Just like, why is this here? It's just making me mad. And it's giving everybody the wrong idea about cavemen and romance and marriage. And also, when he puts the ring on her finger, those are the cleanest, dirtiest fingers I've ever seen. They're like, you have a French manicure, but we're going to cover it in half a thing of dirt.
Yeah, it was like a French manicure where the white part was dirt.
Yeah.
Like, they were, like, her cuticles were perfect, her nails were long. Like,
and, like, even and straight. Like, just...
It was insane.
I just wish it wasn't in there. Anyway, sorry. Okay.
Yeah. Anyways, we failed at keeping this a short hot take. But Lindsay, what's next for us?
So main feed next week is Bros, which is what I was thinking about when I was thinking about You've Got Mail. So spoiler. And then we've got some really super fun stuff coming up for July, including maybe another hot take. What?
Yay!
Yeah.
Yeah.
So stay tuned.
Indeed. Well, thank you for listening. This has been very fun. It was delightful to get to go to this movie, even though it was not at all what we expected. You can always leave us a rating or a review wherever you get your podcasts. And you can find us on social media. We're at Charts and Hearts Podcast on Instagram and Threads.
You can also head to our website, chartsandhearts.com, where you can submit suggestions for rom-coms and tropes for us to add to the list. And you can check out our Patreon, which you know, because you're on it listening to us. Yes. But check out all that we offer. We have a lot of really fun movies, and it's only $2 a month to join us there. Normally, we wrap this up with a quote, but they don't have any quotes yet. I don't have any quotes, because I didn't remember any quotes. There were no notable quotes in this movie. Yeah. But in the meantime, if you watch this movie, let us know your thoughts. Yeah. And we can talk about Pedro together. It's surprisingly good, but not what you think it is. Yes, exactly. Yeah. All right. Okay. Bye. Bye.